The hospital administrator's voice cut through the emergency room like a scalpel. Dr. Elena Foster stood perfectly still, her prosthetic leg hidden beneath blood-stained scrubs as the words liability and terminated echoed off sterile walls. She had saved 3 lives that morning. None of that mattered now. What Director Brennan didn't know was this: Elena wasn't just any doctor being fired for limping. She was a decorated Navy combat surgeon who'd performed the impossible under fire in Afghanistan and paid for it with her leg. And the phone in his pocket was about to ring with a call that would change everything. 23 minutes later, a military helicopter would land on the roof. 4 Navy SEALs would emerge. And Elena Foster would walk away from the hospital that betrayed her straight into the most dangerous mission of her life. Before we continue, drop your city or country in the comments. Now, back to Elena's story. But to understand why Navy SEALs were saluting a civilian doctor on a hospital rooftop, we need to go back 24 hours earlier, to the moment Elena Foster's carefully rebuilt world began to crack. The emergency room at Mercy General Hospital smelled like disinfectant and desperation at 6 in the morning. Elena pushed through the double doors, her prosthetic leg creating a barely perceptible asymmetry in her gait that most people never noticed. The ones who did usually looked away quickly, uncomfortable with their own discomfort. Maria Santos didn't look away. The charge nurse glanced up from her station coffee cup halfway to her lips and smiled the way you smile at someone you've been through hell with. 2 years of overnight shifts and impossible saves created bonds that felt like family. "How's the leg today, Doc?" "Same as always." Elena signed into the computer system, her fingers moving automatically through the morning routine. "Doesn't slow me down." "Never does." Maria handed her a tablet with the overnight census. "You saved 3 lives last week. Bradley's still talking about that motorcycle accident. Said he's never seen anyone work that fast." Elena scanned the patient list without responding to the compliment. Trauma Bay 1 had a 52-year-old male with chest pain. Room 7 held a possible appendicitis. The waiting room showed 14 patients color-coded by triage priority. Standard Tuesday morning in San Diego. She moved through the ER with practiced efficiency, checking vitals, ordering labs, adjusting treatment plans. Her hands knew what to do before her brain fully processed the data. 15 years of medical training, 20 years of combat surgery. 3 years of rebuilding herself after Kandahar. It all lived in her muscle memory now. The motorcycle accident patient was in Bay 3. 26 years old, multiple road rash injuries, possible fractured ribs. Elena examined him with gentle thoroughness, her fingers probing for hidden damage, while her mind calculated probabilities. She'd seen worse injuries in Afghanistan, much worse, but that didn't make this young man's pain any less real. "You're going to be fine." Her voice carried the certainty that came from having seen the other side of fine. "Ribs are bruised, but not broken. We'll get you cleaned up and send you home with pain management." The kid looked at her prosthetic leg, visible now as she shifted position. "Were you in the military Navy?" "Combat surgeon." "That's badass." Elena allowed herself a small smile. It had its moments. She finished her examination and moved to the next patient, the rhythm of emergency medicine pulling her forward. This was who she was now. Not Commander Foster. Not the surgeon who'd earned a Silver Star performing the impossible under mortar fire. Just Dr. Elena Foster, ER physician, Mercy General Hospital, San Diego, California. She walked past the memorial photo in the hallway without stopping. Dr. Rachel Winters smiled out from behind glass, frozen in time at 63. 3 weeks dead. Official cause suicide by jumping from the 6th floor parking garage. Unofficial whispers, why would she jump when she was 2 months from retirement? Elena had stopped asking that question out loud after the 3rd time someone changed the subject. Director Paul Brennan's assistant called at 9:47. "Dr. Foster, the director, needs to see you in his office." Elena's stomach tightened. She'd worked at Mercy General for 2 years without ever being summoned to the executive suite. Maria caught her arm as she headed for the elevators. Everything okay? Just an admin meeting. Elena kept her voice light, but her instincts were screaming. Something was wrong. The elevator ride to the 5th floor felt like ascending to execution. The doors opened onto plush carpeting and modern art that cost more than most people's yearly salary. Healthcare as corporate enterprise, medicine as profit margin. Brennan's office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He sat behind a desk that could have doubled as an aircraft carrier, and he wasn't alone. A woman in an expensive suit sat in the corner legal pad, balanced on her knee. Hospital counsel. Elena's internal alarms went from yellow to red. Dr. Foster. Brennan gestured to a chair. Please sit. Elena remained standing. Her prosthetic leg ached slightly phantom pains mixing with real ones, but she kept her weight balanced. Whatever this was, she'd face it on her feet. We need to discuss your employment status. The words hit like physical blows. Elena forced herself to breathe, to think like a surgeon, analyzing a problem. My performance reviews have been excellent. My surgical outcomes are among the best in the department. The legal counsel cleared her throat. This isn't about your medical skills, Dr. Foster. It's about liability concerns. Liability. The word hung in the air like poison gas. Brennan wouldn't meet her eyes. Your prosthetic leg constitutes a potential risk factor. Our insurance carrier has raised concerns about long-term viability. I've had this leg for 3 years. I've performed hundreds of surgeries without incident. Nevertheless. Brennan shuffled papers on his desk, still not looking at her. We're terminating your contract. Effective immediately. The room tilted slightly. Elena's hands clenched at her sides, nails digging into palms. This is discrimination. I'm protected under the ADA. You're welcome to pursue legal remedies. The counsel's voice was professionally sympathetic, which somehow made it worse. But the termination stands. Elena looked at Brennan. Really looked at him. The man was sweating despite the air conditioning. His hands shook slightly as he organized papers that didn't need organizing. He was terrified. What's really going on here? Your personal situation makes you unsuitable for our needs. My personal situation, I'm a decorated combat surgeon. You're also someone who asks too many questions. Brennan finally met her eyes, and Elena saw genuine fear there. About things that are none of your concern, like Dr. Winter's death. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Brennan's face went rigid. Dr. Winter's death was thoroughly investigated. I suggest you drop it. So that's what this is about. Understanding crystallized in Elena's mind with surgical precision. Rachel had found something worth killing for. And now they were removing Elena before she could find it too. Security will escort you to collect your belongings. Brennan pressed a button on his desk. Thank you for your service to Mercy General. 2 security guards appeared in the doorway. Elena recognized them both. James Wilson, former Marine, always respectful. Linda Chen, single mother of 2, brought her daughter's school fundraiser forms every year. Now they were here to escort her out like a criminal. The walk through the ER was a gauntlet of shocked faces. Maria Santos had tears in her eyes. Dr. David Park, who'd worked alongside Elena for 2 years, looked like he wanted to protest, but didn't know how. The residents and nurses watched in silence as she cleaned out her locker hands, moving mechanically through the task. This is wrong, Maria whispered. Everyone knows it. Don't make waves. Elena kept her voice steady, even as her world collapsed. I'll be fine. But she wasn't fine. She sat in her car in the parking garage, hands shaking on the steering wheel, and felt the carefully constructed life she'd built after Kandahar crumbling around her. She was a surgeon. That's what she did. That's who she was. Without that, what was left? Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Encrypted message. Dr. Foster. Rachel Winters didn't jump. She was pushed. Because she found the files. Check locker 247. Your locker. Trust no one. MC. Elena stared at the screen. MC Marcus Chen. They'd served together in Afghanistan, different units but overlapping deployments. She'd saved his team during a mass casualty event. He'd coordinated the evacuation when the field hospital came under attack. She hadn't heard from him in 3 years. If Marcus was reaching out now, it meant this was bigger than hospital politics. It meant Rachel's death was murder. And it meant Elena was either already in danger or about to be. She got out of the car. Her prosthetic leg protested the socket, not quite seated correctly after sitting for too long, but she ignored it. Pain was information. Right now, she needed information more than comfort. The staff entrance was less monitored than the main lobby. Elena used her badge, half expecting it to be deactivated, but the lock clicked open. Small favors. Maria spotted her near the nursing station. "What are you doing back?" "I forgot something in my locker." "Be careful." Brennan's watching the cameras. Elena nodded and moved quickly down the familiar hallway. The locker room was empty, lunch break still an hour away. She spun the combination on locker 247. 1532. 8. Rachel's birthday. The lock clicked open. Beneath her old white coat, exactly where Marcus said it would be, lay a manila envelope. Thick. Heavy. Elena pulled it out, heart pounding. She didn't open it here. Too exposed. She shoved it into her bag and closed the locker. "Dr. Foster." She spun around. Director Brennan stood in the doorway, blocking her exit. His face had gone from frightened to furious. "You're trespassing. Getting my personal belongings." "That's legal." His eyes dropped to her bag, noted the bulge of the envelope. "What did you take?" Elena kept her voice level. "Nothing that belongs to the hospital." Brennan moved closer, voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "Whatever Rachel gave you, it's dangerous. For you. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. People have died over this. Don't be next." Elena's combat training kicked in, assessing threats and exits. Brennan was unarmed, out of shape, not a physical danger. But the desperation in his eyes suggested he was capable of calling in people who were. "Who's paying you?" Elena stepped toward him instead of away. Military instinct to never show fear. "How much is your silence worth?" "You don't understand what you're dealing with." "Then explain it to me." Brennan's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his face went sheet white. He answered, turning slightly away. Yes, I understand. She's here now." Elena edged toward the door. Brennan's body language had changed completely. Whoever was on that call terrified him more than she did. He hung up, and when he looked at her again, the fear had transformed into something worse. Resignation. "You should leave Dr. Foster. Right now. And you should keep walking." "What did they tell you?" "It doesn't matter." Brennan stepped aside, letting her pass. "Just go. While you still can." Elena went. She walked quickly through the hallway, expecting security to grab her at any moment, but no one stopped her. She made it to the cafeteria, found a corner table, and finally opened the envelope. Patient records for names she didn't recognize. Surgical logs that didn't match the hospital database. Shipping manifests for medical equipment to addresses in Phoenix, San Antonio, Norfolk, Seattle, Boston. Financial transfers routing through shell companies. And photographs. Dozens of them. Patients in operating rooms. Surgeons she recognized performing procedures in rooms she'd never seen. And in the center of it all, one face that made her blood run cold. Dr. Vincent Cross, guest surgeon from Johns Hopkins. She'd assisted him on a procedure 6 months ago. She'd taught him a technique for repairing arterial damage. He'd had a surgical scar on his left hand, distinctive. Now she was looking at surveillance photos of him in what appeared to be an underground surgical suite, standing over a patient who didn't look like he'd consented to anything. The overhead PA system crackled. "Dr. Foster, report to rooftop helipad. Emergency." Elena looked up sharply. She didn't work here anymore. Why would they page her for an emergency unless it wasn't really an emergency? Unless it was a trap? Or unless Marcus Chen's message meant something more than she'd understood? She shoved the files back into her bag and headed for the stairs. If this was a trap, walking into it was suicide. If it was real, someone was dying while she hesitated. The calculus was simple. She was a doctor. When someone called emergency, you went. The stairwell was concrete and echoing her footsteps and the rhythmic tap of her prosthetic leg, creating a syncopated beat that matched her racing heart. 6 flights up. She'd done worse. In Kandahar, she'd run half a mile in full gear while mortars fell around her. This was nothing. She burst through the rooftop access door into blinding California sunlight. The wind hit her immediately hot and dry. And there, descending from the sky like something from a fever dream, was a Navy MH-60S Seahawk helicopter. The rotor wash scattered debris across the helipad. Elena shielded her eyes, watching as the aircraft touched down with military precision. The side door slid open before the wheels fully settled and 4 figures in tactical gear jumped out. Navy SEALs. She recognized the bearing the movement the way they automatically secured a perimeter, even on a civilian hospital roof. They were operators, and they were here for her. The team leader strode forward, removing his helmet. His eyes went immediately to her prosthetic leg, visible through her torn scrub pants from the sprint up the stairs. Recognition flashed across his face. He snapped to attention. Saluted. "Commander Foster, we need you. Now." Elena's world narrowed to that moment. The past 24 hours, the firing, the files, Rachel's murder, all of it suddenly made terrible sense. This wasn't about hospital politics. This was military. This was operational. This was the war she thought she'd left behind in Afghanistan coming back to claim her. "Who are you?" Chief Petty Officer Jake Morrison. The SEAL's voice was urgent, professional. "Captain Marcus Chen is dying. Femoral artery shred. 18 minutes out. He asked for you specifically, ma'am. Said you're the only surgeon who can save him." Marcus. The name hit like an electric shock. Marcus Chen had sent her the message about Rachel's files, and now he was bleeding out somewhere, counting on her to save him the way she'd saved his team in Kandahar. Elena looked back at the hospital. Through the rooftop door, she could see Director Brennan, standing in the stairwell phone, pressed to his ear, watching her with an expression somewhere between terror and relief. Then she looked at Morrison, at the helicopter, at the 3 other SEALs, waiting with disciplined patience for her decision. She'd been fired for being a liability. They'd called her broken, unsuitable, a risk they couldn't afford. Now, the United States Navy was saluting her and begging for her help. Elena Foster squared her shoulders and walked toward the helicopter. Elena climbed into the Seahawk before Morrison could offer assistance. The cargo bay smelled like gun oil and aviation fuel, familiar scents that triggered muscle memory from deployments she'd tried to forget. 3 other SEALs occupied the space, their tactical gear marking them as serious operators, not training exercise participants. Morrison handed her a tactical vest as the helicopter lifted off. The city dropped away beneath them, Mercy General shrinking to toy size. Elena watched Director Brennan become a tiny figure on the roof, still holding his phone, still watching her escape, something he'd been paid to prevent. The youngest SEAL was staring at her prosthetic leg with undisguised fascination. He caught himself and looked away, embarrassed. "It's fine." Elena strapped into the bench seat, her hands moving through safety procedures she hadn't performed in 3 years. "I lost it in Kandahar. IED aftermath during a field hospital evacuation." "That's where you met Captain Chen." Morrison said. It wasn't a question. Different units, same battlefield. Elena's mind was already shifting into combat medicine mode, cataloging the medical equipment visible in the cargo bay. Limited, but functional. "Tell me about his injury." "Shrapnel to the femoral artery." Morrison's voice carried the controlled urgency of someone who'd seen too many friends bleed out. He was investigating something at Mercy General when they hit him. Hit him, where Naval Medical Center, San Diego. Inside a supposedly secure facility. The implications settled over Elena like ice water. An attack inside a military hospital meant insider threat. meant someone with access, with credentials, with reasons to want Marcus Chen dead before he could talk. How long since the injury? 23 minutes. Naval Base San Diego is 40 minutes out. Elena did the math instantly. Femoral artery damage meant massive blood loss. 23 minutes was already pushing survival limits. 40 more, and they'd be transporting a corpse. Change of plans? Her voice cut through the helicopter noise with surgical authority. I operate here, now. Morrison's expression didn't change, but she saw his grip tighten on his weapon. Commander, we don't have a sterile field. No proper equipment, we have what we have. Elena was already moving toward the stretcher secured in the center of the bay. And Captain Chen doesn't have 40 minutes. She looked down at the man strapped to the stretcher and felt time compress. Marcus Chen's face was gray lips, bloodless skin, clammy with shock, but his eyes opened when she touched his shoulder and recognition flickered there. Elena. His voice was barely audible over the rotors. You got my message. I got it. Save your strength. Rachel. They killed Rachel. The files in your locker. I have them. Just stay with me, Marcus. His hand grabbed her wrist with surprising strength for someone in hemorrhagic shock. Not just organs. Something bigger. They're building something. His body convulsed. Blood soaked through the temporary pressure dressing on his thigh, spreading across the stretcher in a bloom that meant his time was measured in minutes, not hours. Elena spun to Morrison. I need everything clean you have. Towels, gauze, anything sterile adjacent. The team moved instantly. Morrison and another SEAL Patches, identifying him as Senior Chief Rodriguez, positioned themselves on either side of the stretcher. The youngest SEAL name tape reading Reed pulled medical supplies from storage. The fourth operator, a woman whose name tape said Kim, began setting up portable monitoring equipment. Ma'am, Reed's voice shook slightly. BP is 80/50 and dropping. Start an IV, wide open. Elena was already cutting away Chen's uniform, exposing the wound. Get me epinephrine ready. The helicopter hit turbulence and everyone grabbed for support. Elena's prosthetic slipped on the metal floor and Reed caught her elbow without hesitation. Their eyes met. His were wide with something between terror and awe. Thanks. Ma'am? He positioned himself to brace her leg while she worked. Elena made the first incision, extending the field to visualize the damaged artery. Blood welled up immediately, hot and red, and carrying Chen's life away with every heartbeat. The femoral artery was shredded multiple penetration points from shrapnel that had fragmented inside the vessel wall. Clamp. Morrison pressed the instrument into her palm. His hands were steady, despite the helicopter's movement, despite watching a surgical procedure that belonged in an operating room, not a cargo bay, at 10,000 feet. Elena worked by instinct and training her fingers, remembering procedures her conscious mind had tried to bury. Isolate the artery. Clamp above and below the damage. Assess the extent of destruction. Calculate repair strategy. The helicopter banked hard. Elena's prosthetic buckled and she nearly fell into the wound. Rodriguez caught her other side, both SEALs now acting as human stabilizers while she performed surgery that would be difficult under optimal conditions and was nearly impossible here. Suture, 40 proline. Kim handed her the needle driver without being asked. The woman had done this before, Elena realized. Combat medicine field surgery, working with whatever you had, wherever you were. Elena tied off the first bleeder with microscopic precision, her world narrowing to millimeters of tissue and thread. Another. The artery was a mess, but it was salvageable if she was fast enough. BP, she said. 70/40, Reed called out. Heart rate 130. He's crashing. Epinephrine, now. Morrison grabbed the auto-injector and slammed it into Chen's chest. The heart monitor spiked rhythm, chaotic but present. Elena kept suturing. Blood made everything slippery vision difficult, but her hands knew what to do. She'd done this before, in worse conditions. Kandahar. Multiple casualties. Mortars falling. The power cutting out mid-surgery. That memory brought others. The explosion. The the ceiling collapsing, pain beyond description as her leg was crushed, dragging herself toward patients who needed her even as she bled out. "Commander." She blinked. Morrison was looking at her with concern. "I'm fine. Keep him stable." The artery was coming together. Not pretty, but functional. She tied off the final suture and released the clamps, watching blood flow return to Chen's lower leg. Pink color returned to his toes. "Good perfusion. He's got a pulse in his foot," Kim said, relief evident in her voice. Elena sat back, hands shaking now that the immediate crisis had passed. Her scrubs were soaked with Chen's blood. Her prosthetic leg ached from the strain of bracing against turbulence. But Chen was alive. Morrison was staring at her. "Ma'am, I've seen a lot of combat medics." But that was something else. "Where are we going?" Elena ignored the compliment, already thinking ahead. "This isn't the flight path to Naval Base San Diego." Morrison and Rodriguez exchanged looks. "We've been diverted. Orders came through 10 minutes ago while you were operating. Diverted where Eastern Shore, Virginia. Off-grid safe house." Elena's threat assessment kicked into high gear. "Who ordered the diversion, Commander Lisa Hartley?" "Naval Intelligence." Before Elena could respond, the radio crackled with a new transmission. Different voice than the pilot's. Male, cold, precise. "Seahawk 7-3, return to base immediately. Dr. Foster is to be detained for questioning." Morrison grabbed the radio. "Negative. We have a critical patient requiring immediate care." "That's an order, Chief. Turn around now." Morrison looked at Elena. She could see him calculating, weighing loyalty to chain of command against operational reality. Chen would die if they turned back. But disobeying direct orders meant ending his career at minimum court-martial at worst. Elena made the decision for him. She grabbed the radio out of his hand. "Identify yourself." Silence. Then Dr. Foster. "You have something that belongs to us. Return to base, and we'll forget this incident. Captain Chen is a Navy officer, not property." Not Chen. The files. Rachel Winter's files. Elena's blood turned to ice. They knew about the files, which meant they'd been watching her, listening, tracking her movements since the moment Rachel died. The files show evidence of crimes. "I'm not returning them to criminals." The voice on the radio changed, losing its professional veneer. "You were supposed to be eliminated this morning. Director Brennan botched the execution. But we can still make this clean." Morrison grabbed the radio back. "Who the hell is this? Someone with the authority to ground your career and end your life. Turn around or face the consequences." The transmission cut off. The helicopter cabin was silent except for the rotor noise and the beeping of Chen's monitors. Elena watched the four SEALs process what they'd just heard. They were all facing the same calculation now. Follow orders from an unknown voice threatening murder, or trust their instincts and protect the wounded operator and the surgeon who'd saved him. "Vote," Morrison said quietly. "We land or we run." Rodriguez spoke first. "We land, we're dead. They're not taking prisoners if they're threatening to kill a decorated surgeon." Kim nodded. "I vote run. Commander Hartley is intel. This is what they do. Extract assets from hostile situations." Reed looked terrified, but determined. "I trust Commander Hartley over some spook on the radio making death threats." Morrison looked at Elena. "Commander, you're the one they're after. Your call." Elena looked down at Chen, unconscious but stable. Thought about Rachel Winter's broken body in the parking garage. About the files in her bag showing dozens of military personnel marked as transferred or deceased, their organs harvested for a program she didn't fully understand yet. We run, but not just to survive. We find Commander Hartley. We expose this. We end it. Morrison nodded once. "Pilot, maintain course to safe house. We're going dark." The pilot's voice came back tense. "Sir, I'm getting warning signals. Someone's trying to lock targeting systems on us. Evasive maneuvers." Morrison's training took over. Kim Rodriguez, weapons hot. Reed, keep that patient stable. Commander Foster, strap in tight. The helicopter banked hard, dropping altitude fast. Elena grabbed the stretcher to keep Chen from sliding. The files in her bag scattered across the floor. Reed scrambled to collect them while monitoring Chen's vitals. Elena caught one of the photos as it slid past. A surgical suite she'd never seen. A patient who looked military unconscious being prepped for organ harvest. And standing over him with scalpel in hand was Dr. Vincent Cross, the guest surgeon who'd visited Mercy General, the man she'd taught her techniques to. The helicopter leveled out. The pilot's voice came through shaky but controlled. "We're clear. No missile lock. They were just trying to scare us." "They succeeded," Reed muttered. Morrison was on a different radio frequency, now encrypted channel. "Commander Hartley, this is Morrison. We have Commander Foster and Captain Chen en route to Safe House. Be advised. We have hostile forces attempting interdiction. Need confirmation this location is secure." The radio crackled. "Copy that, Chief. Safe House is secure. I'm en route now. ETA 40 minutes. Get Foster and Chen inside and maintain defensive perimeter until I arrive." "Roger that." Morrison turned to Elena. "Commander, you need to know something. The explosion in Kandahar, the one that took your leg. We don't think it was random insurgent fire." Elena had suspected this since Hartley's name first came up, but hearing it confirmed still hit like a physical blow. "What are you saying?" "The patient you operated on 2 days before the explosion. CIA asset named David Park. He'd discovered evidence of organ trafficking on military bases. Someone wanted everyone who'd treated him dead." Elena remembered Park. Young and tense, injured in what was supposed to be a routine patrol. She'd removed shrapnel from his abdomen, repaired a lacerated spleen. He'd recovered and been transferred out. A week later, her field hospital was hit. "My surgical team. 3 Marines. All dead. We think they were the intended targets. You survived. Captain Chen survived. Park died in surgery 3 days after the explosion." Elena felt the floor of her world cracking open. 3 years she'd believed the attack was random, tragic luck in a war zone. But it had been murder, targeted assassination of everyone who might have known what Park discovered. "How long have you known this Chen's investigation uncovered it 6 weeks ago? That's why someone tried to kill him today." The helicopter began its descent. Through the window, Elena saw rural Virginia landscape farms and forest with no cities visible. The safe house would be isolated, defensible off any grid that could be easily monitored. They landed in a field next to an abandoned airstrip. 2 black SUVs waited, more armed personnel securing the perimeter. Morrison's team moved Chen onto a stretcher with practiced efficiency. Elena climbed out her prosthetic, protesting after the cramped flight surgery, but she kept pace. A woman emerged from one of the SUVs. Late 40s, sharp eyes that missed nothing, military bearing despite civilian clothes. She walked directly to Elena. "Commander Foster, I'm Commander Lisa Hartley, Naval Intelligence. Thank you for saving Captain Chen's life." "Who's trying to kill her?" Commander Hartley's expression hardened. "People with resources, power, and no conscience. Let's get you both inside, and we'll discuss details." The safe house was 2 miles down, back roads. A weathered farmhouse that looked abandoned, but was clearly maintained. Inside, it had been converted into a command center. Banks of computers, communications equipment, maps covering the walls, showing multiple locations across the United States. More personnel than Elena expected. This wasn't a small operation. This was a full intelligence task force. Medical team took Chen to a back room for stabilization. Hartley led Elena to what looked like a dining room converted to a briefing space. She spread photographs across the table. Hospital exteriors, personnel files, shipping manifests. "We've been tracking this for 8 months. The conspiracy isn't just Mercy General. It's 6 hospitals across 4 states. We estimate 50+ victims over 3 years." Elena studied the photos. Recognized some faces. Doctors she'd met at conferences, administrators who'd interviewed her for positions. People who looked normal, professional, trustworthy. What exactly is the conspiracy? Hartley pulled up files on a laptop. Organ harvesting from military personnel. Veterans mostly combat wounded with minimal family connections. People the system has already failed. They're taken for routine procedures and never seen again. Elena felt sick. The files Rachel had hidden were showing the same pattern. Transfers that never completed. Patients who died from complications that shouldn't have been fatal. Organs shipped to undisclosed locations. Who's buying? That's what we're still investigating. But Foster, there's something else you need to know. Hartley showed her a classified document marked above top secret. Elena read the first paragraph and felt reality shift beneath her feet. This wasn't just organ trafficking. This was military research. Experimental procedures designed to enhance combat performance through optimized organ transplants. Reduced rejection rates. Accelerated healing. Extended operational capability. They're building enhanced soldiers, Elena whispered. 12 confirmed so far, all still operational locations unknown. The program calls it Project Nightingale. Elena looked up. Rachel Winters found this. She found evidence of the experimental procedures. Success rates that shouldn't be possible. Captain Chen found the financial trail. Combined their evidence would have shut this down. So they killed her and tried to kill him. And now I'm involved. Now you're the only person who can get back inside Mercy General without raising immediate suspicion. You were just publicly fired. You have grievances. You're a perfect recruit for their network. You want me to infiltrate. I want you to survive. But if you're willing to help us take them down, we can provide support and extraction. Elena thought about Rachel, who'd believed in her when no one else would. About Marcus Chen, barely alive in the next room. About Tyler Reed and Morrison's team, risking their careers to protect her. About the 3 Marines who died in Kandahar, thinking they were just unlucky. Tell me the plan. The plan was simple, which in Elena's experience meant it would probably go catastrophically wrong. She would return to San Diego within 48 hours, using a manufactured identity as Dr. Jennifer Martinez, a traveling ER physician. Mercy General was desperate for staff after 3 doctors had quit without explanation the previous week. Rats abandoning a sinking ship, Hartley called it. The network was collapsing under its own weight. Elena would have 48 hours inside to identify other network members and gather evidence before Hartley's team moved in for coordinated arrests. The risk was everything. The alternative was letting the conspiracy continue killing people. But first, Chen needed to decrypt the files Rachel had hidden. He was the only one with the technical expertise and the CIA access codes Park had given him before dying. Elena checked on him in the medical room. He was conscious, groggy from anesthesia, but alert enough to recognize her. His laptop sat on the bedside table, already running decryption algorithms. How long, she asked. 48 hours. Maybe less if I can crack Park's secondary encryption. He coughed, wincing. Elena, you need to know something about the program. It's not theoretical anymore. What do you mean, the enhanced soldiers? They're operational. 12 confirmed, all active duty, all performing missions right now. Unknown locations. Elena felt cold spread through her chest. They're already using them. And we don't know who's controlling them. Could be DOD, could be contractors, could be foreign interests who bought access. Chen's eyes were fever bright with urgency. That's why this has to stop. Before they build an army we can't trace. Morrison appeared in the doorway. Commander Foster, Commander Hartley wants you in the briefing room. Elena followed him through the farmhouse. It was nearly 8 p.m. darkness settling over Virginia farmland. Through windows, she could see perimeter guards with night vision equipment watching approaches. The briefing room held Hartley and 3 other intelligence officers Elena hadn't met. Maps covered the table showing Mercy General's layout surrounding buildings' access points. This was serious operational planning. "We've arranged your identity," Hartley said without preamble. "Dr. Jennifer Martinez, ER physician from Phoenix. Real medical credentials under a legend we've been building for 2 years for undercover work. Background checks will hold up to anything Mercy General runs. What about people who know me? Maria Santos worked with me for 2 years. Hair color change, contact lenses for eye color, model makeup alterations. You'd be surprised how much recognition depends on context and expectation. You were fired, you're gone. They're not expecting you to return. And if someone recognizes me anyway, then you press this." Hartley handed her a device shaped like a pen. "Press twice, we come in. 30-second response time. But Elena, if you use it, we only catch whoever's in the immediate area. We need you to identify the whole network before we move. How will I communicate?" "You won't. Too risky. We'll be monitoring from outside, but you're alone in there." One of the other officers, a lean man with lieutenant commander insignia, spoke up. "Commander Foster, you should know the operational parameters. We're bending numerous regulations to attempt this. If it goes wrong, naval intelligence will disavow knowledge. You'll be on your own legally." Elena met his eyes. "What's your name, Lieutenant Commander?" "James Patterson, ma'am. I'll be coordinating external surveillance." "Well, Patterson, I've been on my own before. I'll manage." Patterson didn't smile. "Just wanted you to understand the risks." "Understood." Hartley dismissed the others and pulled Elena aside. "There's something else. The surgeon running the program at Mercy General, Dr. Vincent Cross. We've confirmed his real identity. Former Army medic named Marcus Dane, dishonorably discharged for selling medical supplies on the black market." Elena remembered Cross's hands, the surgical scar, his enthusiasm when she'd taught him advanced arterial repair. "I assisted him on a procedure. He was good. Really good. He's better than good. He's performed 37 successful organ enhancements. 0 rejection rates. Elena, whatever he's doing, it works. That doesn't make it right. No, but it makes him valuable to whoever's funding this, which means they'll protect him, and they'll eliminate anyone who threatens him." Elena thought about Rachel, about Chen, about the 3 years she'd spent believing her injury in Kandahar was random chance. "Then I better make sure I see him before he sees me." She spent the night in a small bedroom, unable to sleep. Every sound outside was a potential threat. Her prosthetic leg ached from the day's stress. She removed it, massaged the stump, felt the phantom pain that never really left. Her leg was gone, but her brain still insisted it hurt. Around 3 a.m., she checked on Chen. He was awake, working on his laptop despite obvious exhaustion. "You should rest." "Can't. The decryption is nearly complete." "Elena, look at this." He turned the laptop screen toward her. Financial records showing millions of dollars flowing through shell corporations. Recipient names she recognized. Senator, Wilson Armed Services Committee. General, Bradley Defense Logistics Agency. Director, Mitchell DARPA. The conspiracy went higher than Mercy. General, higher than 6 hospitals, higher than naval intelligence had suspected. This was Pentagon-level corruption. How do we stop this? Elena's voice was barely a whisper. We can't. Not all of it. But we can cut off one branch. Shut down the medical network. Make the rest of them scatter. Then maybe congressional oversight catches up. Maybe isn't good enough. Maybe is all we've got. Chen closed the laptop. Elena, if something happens to me, this USB drive has everything. Park's files, Rachel's investigation, my decryption. Promise me you'll get it to the right people. Nothing's going to happen to you. Promise me. Elena took the drive. I promise. She returned to her room, but sleep remained elusive. At dawn, she heard the first sounds of movement. Guards changing shifts. Coffee brewing in the kitchen. The rhythm of a safe house pretending to be safe. Morrison found her at 7 a.m. Ma'am, Commander Hartley is running final briefing at 0900. Your transport leaves at 11. Elena nodded. Morrison, can I ask you something? Of course, Commander. Why did you volunteer for this? You could have refused. Could have let someone else extract Chen. Morrison was quiet for a moment. My brother was Marine Corps, wounded in Fallujah, transferred to a VA hospital in San Antonio. 6 weeks later, he was dead. Complications from a routine procedure, they said. His organs were donated before we could even get there for the funeral. Elena felt ice in her stomach. San Antonio is one of the 6 cities. He was 24 years old, healthy except for his combat injuries. No way he should have died from complications. Morrison's jaw was tight. When Captain Chen briefed us on this operation, showed us the evidence, I knew. They killed my brother and harvested him like he was spare parts. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Help me make them pay. The briefing at 9 was strictly operational. Entry protocols, emergency signals, extraction procedures. Elena memorized everything, while part of her mind cataloged the faces around the table. These people were risking careers and lives to stop Project Nightingale. She couldn't let them down. At 10:30, alarms started blaring. Hartley was on her feet instantly. Status report. Perimeter sensors showing multiple vehicles approaching. Patterson was at the computer terminal pulling up camera feeds. 3 SUVs, 6 contacts, confirmed possibly more. How did they find us? Hartley's voice was deadly calm. Someone at the table had an answer Elena didn't want to hear. The helicopter. They must have tracked it. But they'd flown dark. No transponder, no radio after the threat. Unless someone had planted a tracker on the bird. Or on Chen. Or on one of the team. Defensive positions, Hartley ordered. Morrison, get Foster and Chen to the basement. There's an emergency tunnel. Elena grabbed her bag with the files as Morrison's team moved into action. Rodriguez and Kim took up positions at windows. Reed appeared with medical gear ready to move Chen. But Chen was already trying to stand pulling IV lines out. Give me a weapon. I can fight. You can barely walk. Elena pushed him back down. Let us handle this. The first gunfire came precisely professionally. Not the wild spray of amateurs, but controlled 3-round bursts aimed at specific targets. Operators. Military trained. Windows shattered. Return fire from Rodriguez and Kim, sharp cracks that made Elena's ears ring. Morrison grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the basement stairs. Reed had Chen on a portable stretcher, moving fast despite the wounded man's weight. They hit the basement just as explosions rocked the upper floor. Flashbangs or actual grenades, Elena couldn't tell. The basement was concrete and cold, lit by emergency lighting. Morrison led them through a maze of storage to a heavy steel door marked Emergency Egress. Tunnel comes out 1/2 mile from here. His voice was controlled, but Elena could see the calculation in his eyes. He knew what staying behind meant. Above them, the gunfire intensified. Then horribly it stopped. Morrison's radio crackled. Chief, they're breaching first floor. We're falling back to second position. That was Rodriguez. Seconds later, Kim's voice. Taking heavy fire. South window, compromised. Then silence. Morrison closed his eyes for just a moment. When he opened them again, they were hard as stones. Get them out. That's the mission now. Jake. Elena used his first name deliberately. Don't do this. Someone has to hold the door. Buy you time. He pulled the steel emergency door open, revealing a concrete tunnel disappearing into darkness. Tyler, you're with Foster and Chen. Get them to the other side. Sir, I should stay. You should go. Reed's voice was shaking, but determined. That's an order, Corpsman. Protect the package. He pressed something into Reed's hand. Phone. Commander Hartley's number is programmed. Call when you're clear. Morrison looked at Elena one last time. Been an honor, Commander. Finish what we started. Jake, don't. Take care of my team. He stepped back and started closing the door. Elena lunged forward, but Reed grabbed her. Ma'am, we have to go. Now. The door sealed. Elena heard Morrison's boots on the stairs moving back up toward the fight. Toward death. Reed was pulling the stretcher into the tunnel. Elena grabbed the front handles, forcing herself to move. Chen was barely conscious, monitors beeping warnings about elevated heart rate and dropping blood pressure. The surgery was too recent. The stress was killing him. They ran. The tunnel was narrow, barely wide enough for the stretcher. Elena's prosthetic screamed with each impact, but she pushed through. Behind them, muffled through concrete, came the sound of sustained gunfire. Morrison's last stand. How far? Elena gasped. Quarter mile. Reed's flashlight bobbed ahead of them. Ma'am, I'm picking up sounds ahead. Elena stopped, listened. Footsteps. Multiple people, coming from the direction they were running toward. They knew about the tunnel. Her voice was flat, with terrible understanding. Someone told them everything. Reed pulled his sidearm. We have a traitor in the team. The footsteps were getting closer. Elena did rapid math. Wounded patient, narrow tunnel enemies ahead and behind. No good options. Only less terrible ones. There. Reed pointed to a small alcove in the tunnel wall, barely deep enough for one person. Commander, take Chen and keep going. I'll hold them here. Tyler. No. Ma'am, he's right. Chen's voice was weak but clear. One of us has to delay them. Let the kid do his job. He's 24 years old. So was Morrison's brother. Reed was already positioning himself in the alcove, checking his ammunition. So were the Marines in Kandahar. So are half the soldiers dying in this goddamned conspiracy. Elena looked at this young man who'd caught her when she stumbled during surgery, who'd steadied her leg without being asked, who'd shown her nothing but respect and awe. He deserved to grow old. He deserved to fall in love and have kids and live a full life. He deserved better than dying in a tunnel in Virginia so she could escape. It's been an honor serving with you, Commander. Reed smiled, and for just a moment, he looked impossibly young and impossibly brave. Now run. Don't look back. The footsteps were close now, flashlight beams appearing in the darkness ahead. Reed stepped out of the alcove and opened fire. Elena ran. She pulled Chen's stretcher alone, her prosthetic threatening to buckle with every step, tears streaming down her face. Behind her, Reed's weapon fired in controlled bursts. Professional. Disciplined. Then heavier fire returning. Automatic weapons. Reed's gun went silent. Elena kept running. The tunnel seemed endless. Her lungs burned. Her prosthetic was definitely damaged, grinding with each step. Chen was trying to help push the stretcher, but he was too weak. The tunnel ended at a vertical ladder. Elena looked up at the storm grate 20 feet above. Marcus, I need you awake for this. She slapped his face harder than necessary. Chen's eyes opened, focused. Can you climb? I can try. She helped him to the ladder first, supporting his weight from below as he slowly ascended. Every rung was agony for him. Elena could see fresh blood soaking through his surgical dressings. She was tearing open everything she'd repaired. But they reached the top. Chen collapsed on the ground above. Elena climbed after him, her prosthetic barely finding purchase on the ladder rungs. She dragged Chen away from the grate just as sounds of pursuit echoed up from below. They were in woods, dawn light filtering through trees, Virginia countryside stretching in every direction. Elena pulled out Reed's phone with shaking hands. It rang once before Hartley answered. Tyler, Commander. It's Foster. Tyler's dead. Morrison, Rodriguez, Kim. All dead. Silence stretched. Then, where are you, Woods? I can see a road. Maybe a mile east of the safe house. Stay hidden. I'm sending extraction. 20 minutes. Elena looked at Chen. He was barely conscious, his skin-gray pulse thready under her fingers. 20 minutes might be 19 minutes too long. Commander, the safe house. What happened? It's gone. Overrun. We had a mole. Patterson was feeding them information. Patterson. The lean lieutenant commander who'd warned her about operational parameters, who'd been coordinating external surveillance, who knew exactly where everyone was at all times. Is he dead? In custody. Singing like a canary to avoid treason charges. But Elena, we lost 7 operators. Good people. Elena closed her eyes. Morrison's face appeared behind her eyelids. Reed's smile. Rodriguez and Kim laying down covering fire. 15 deaths in less than 24 hours. All to expose this conspiracy. All because she'd opened Rachel's files. Are you injured? Hartley's voice pulled her back. Physically, no. Chen needs immediate care. Keep him alive. We need his testimony. Elena checked Chen's pulse again. Weaker. She adjusted his position, elevated his legs, did everything she could with no equipment and no supplies. Marcus, stay with me. Tired, Elena. So tired. I know. But you don't get to quit. Not after getting me into this. He managed a weak smile. You got yourself into this. I just sent the message. Why me? Why did you contact me after 3 years? Because I knew you'd care. About Rachel. About the victims. He coughed blood on his lips. You're the only person I trust to finish this. The sound of vehicles approached. Elena tensed hand moving to Reed's pistol tucked in her waistband. But the SUV that appeared had Hartley in the passenger seat. Medics jumped out immediately, working on Chen. They loaded him with practiced efficiency while Hartley approached Elena. You look like hell. Feel worse. Elena watched them secure Chen in the vehicle. The safe house burned. Literally. They torched it after the assault. Bodies. We recovered 6. Rodriguez, Kim, Morrison. 3 of my operators. Reed's body wasn't there. He might have been taken. Or he walked into a trap that vaporized him. Hartley's expression was grim. I'm sorry, Elena. I should have seen Patterson's betrayal. How long was he working for them? 6 months. They promised him money, new identity protection. He gave them everything. Safe house locations, operational plans, personnel files. What happens now? Now we adapt. Patterson gave us something useful before we shipped him to Guantanamo. Cross is still at Mercy General. He doesn't know you survived the safe house assault. As far as the network knows, everyone's dead. So I'm a ghost. You're our only remaining asset. Hartley pulled out new identity documents. Dr. Jennifer Martinez. Your legend is solid. Hospital called this morning, desperate for ER coverage. When tomorrow morning? We're flying you back to San Diego tonight. 6 a.m. start time. Elena looked at the documents. Different name, different history, but same mission. Walk back into Mercy General, find Cross, identify the network. Get evidence. And this time, do it alone. I want Morrison's challenge coin and Reed's phone. Elena's voice was hard. They died for this. I'm carrying them with me. Hartley nodded. Done. They drove back to a new safe house, different location, minimal personnel. Hartley's team had been decimated. Naval intelligence was scrambling to understand how badly Patterson had compromised them. Elena spent the evening being transformed. Hair dyed from dark brown to auburn. Contact lenses changing her eyes from brown to hazel. Subtle makeup techniques altering the shape of her face. When she looked in the mirror, Dr. Jennifer Martinez looked back. Similar enough to be her, different enough to be someone else. Chen was stable, barely. The medics had him on IV antibiotics, blood transfusions, stabilization protocols. He'd survive. But he wouldn't be operational for weeks. Before she left, he gave her the USB drive. Everything's here. Park's files. Rachel's investigation, my decryption. Patterson didn't know about this. It's clean. Elena pocketed the drive next to Morrison's coin and Reed's phone. 3 talismans. 3 reasons to finish this. Hartley drove her to a private airfield where a civilian charter waited. We'll be monitoring from outside. Electronic surveillance vehicle tracking. But Elena, inside that hospital, you're alone. I know. If Cross recognizes you, if anyone makes you press the panic button, we'll breach within 30 seconds and lose the chance to catch the whole network. Your life is worth more than this operation. Elena met Hartley's eyes. Tell that to Morrison, to Reed, To Rodriguez and Kim. Tell that to Rachel Winters and the 50-plus victims we haven't even identified yet. Hartley said nothing. Elena boarded the plane. 5 hours to San Diego. 5 hours to prepare mentally for walking back into the place that had fired her, that had murdered her mentor. That was the hub of a conspiracy reaching to the Pentagon. She looked out the window as the plane took off, Virginia disappearing beneath her. Somewhere down there, Morrison's body was in a morgue. Reed's might never be found. 3 Marines had died in Kandahar because she'd operated on the wrong patient. How many more deaths before this ended? The plane leveled out at cruising altitude. Elena closed her eyes, but sleep was impossible. Her mind kept replaying the tunnel. Reed's smile. His last words. Now run. Don't look back. But she was looking back. She'd carry those faces with her forever. The weight of their sacrifice. The debt she could never repay. Unless she finished what they'd started. Dr. Jennifer Martinez arrived at Mercy General Hospital at 5:45 a.m., 15 minutes early for her first shift. The sun was rising over San Diego, painting the building in gold light. It looked peaceful, professional, nothing like the nest of corruption and murder Elena knew it to be. She walked through the ER entrance. Maria Santos looked up from the nursing station, tired from overnight shift, but professional. Dr. Martinez. Thank God. We're drowning, happy to help. Elena's voice was steady, her new identity secure. Where can I stow my bag? Locker room, second door on the left. Elena walked down the familiar hallway toward the familiar locker room, every step taking her deeper into enemy territory. Her prosthetic leg moved smoothly, the pain distant and manageable. She was Dr. Jennifer Martinez now, traveling ER physician. No history with this hospital, no connections to the conspiracy, just another doctor starting another shift saving lives. She pushed open the locker room door and nearly collided with a man in surgical scrubs. He looked up. Dr. Vincent Cross. Their eyes met. Recognition flashed across his face like lightning. His hand moved toward his pocket. Elena's hand closed on the panic button. Neither moved. Mexican standoff in a hospital locker room while the ER hummed with morning activity beyond the door. Cross smiled slowly. Dr. Foster. I was wondering when you'd arrive. Elena's finger rested on the panic button. 2 clicks and Hartley's team would breach the hospital in 30 seconds. But Cross would reach Captain Anderson in the ICU before that. 1 injection of potassium chloride and another witness would be dead. The math was simple. The choice was impossible. My prosthetic leg suits you, Cross said, his voice conversational, despite the tension crackling between them. I almost didn't recognize you with the different hair. But the way you move, that's unmistakable. Vincent Cross. Elena kept her voice level. Or should I say, Specialist Marcus Dane, dishonorably discharged for theft of medical supplies. His smile widened. You've been doing research. Good. Then you know I'm serious about my work. Your work is murder. My work is progress. Cross shifted positions slightly, blocking the door. That technique I learned from you, the arterial repair under pressure, I've used it 37 times since Kandahar. Every patient survived, to have their organs harvested. Semantics, Commander. The results matter, not the method. Elena assessed her options. The locker room had 1 exit. Cross stood between her and freedom. She could fight him, but he was bigger, stronger, and clearly prepared for confrontation. She could use the panic button, but Anderson would die before help arrived. What do you want? Walk with me. Cross moved aside just enough to let her pass. We'll discuss terms. And if I refuse, then Captain Anderson codes in the ICU while we're having this conversation. Respiratory arrest is so unpredictable in post-operative patients. Elena stepped into the hallway. Hospital morning shift was in full swing. Nurses rushing between rooms. Residents presenting cases. Orderlies moving equipment. Normal chaos that masked extraordinary danger. They walked side by side like colleagues discussing a patient case. Cross kept one hand in his pocket, where Elena assumed he held the syringe. She kept her hand near the panic button, calculating distances and response times. "You've caused significant problems," Cross said quietly. 12 operators dead at the safe house. Captain Chen escaped with classified files. "Our network is compromised." "Good. My employers disagree. They've invested considerable resources in this program." "Who are your employers?" "People who understand that progress requires sacrifice." Cross guided her toward the elevators. "People who see the bigger picture beyond conventional ethics." The elevator arrived. They stepped inside alone. Cross pressed the button for the ICU floor. "You killed Dr. Winters." Elena's voice was hard. Rachel Winters was a problem that needed solving. She found surgical logs she shouldn't have accessed, started asking questions that had dangerous answers. "She was my mentor. She was also brilliant." Cross's tone held genuine respect. Her investigation was remarkably thorough. "It took us weeks to track down all her evidence caches. We thought we'd found everything. You didn't find the files she gave me. Obviously. Or you'd be dead already." The elevator doors opened on the ICU floor. Cross led Elena past the nursing station with a pleasant nod. The nurses recognized him, smiled back. "Dr. Cross had visiting privileges here. Guest surgeon. Trusted professional." Room 7 was at the end of the corridor. Through the window, Elena saw Captain Anderson, hooked to multiple machines. His skin had the gray pallor of organ failure. He was dying slowly, rejection cascading through his system. Cross swiped his ID badge and the door unlocked. They entered. He closed the door behind them and pulled out the syringe. "Captain Anderson received an enhanced kidney 6 weeks ago. Latest generation implant designed to improve filtration efficiency by 40%. He's been operational since then. Exemplary performance. Until his body started rejecting it. Minor setback." Cross checked the syringe professionally casual. "We're still perfecting the anti-rejection protocols. Some candidates integrate better than others." "He's a person, not a candidate. He's a soldier who volunteered for medical treatment. What happens after that is classified research. He didn't volunteer for this." Cross moved toward Anderson's IV line. "Here's what's going to happen, Commander. You're going to walk with me to a more private location. We're going to have a conversation about your future. If you cooperate, Captain Anderson lives. If you use that panic button I know you're carrying, he dies before your rescue team arrives." Elena looked at Anderson's unconscious face. He was maybe 25. Someone's son. Someone's brother. A Marine who'd survived combat only to become a test subject for illegal experiments. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere we can speak freely." Cross led her to the service elevator, the one used by maintenance and transport teams. He swiped a different ID badge, one that gave access to restricted levels. The elevator descended past the ground floor, past the first basement level down to sub-basement 2. The doors opened onto a corridor Elena had never seen. Old concrete vintage lighting the architecture of Cold War-era construction. Mercy General had been built in 1952 during the height of nuclear paranoia. The sub-basement was designed as a fallout shelter and emergency surgical suite. Perfect for operations you wanted to keep hidden. Cross walked ahead confidently, clearly familiar with this space. They passed storage rooms, mechanical areas, abandoned offices. At the end of the corridor stood a door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." He swiped his card. The lock clicked. The door opened onto a fully equipped surgical suite that looked like it belonged in a science fiction film. State-of-the-art equipment, advanced monitoring systems, surgical robots Elena had only seen in research journals. And on the operating table in the center of the room, unconscious and prepped for surgery, was Commander Lisa Hartley. Elena's blood turned to ice. "Lisa." She rushed forward, but Cross caught her arm. "Easy, Commander. She's alive. Heavily sedated, but stable. What have you done?" Nothing yet. Cross moved to check Hartley's monitors. Commander Hartley has been problematic for our operation. Too intelligent, too persistent. We couldn't let her investigation continue. So you're going to kill her. We're going to use her. Cross pulled up a surgical plan on a nearby computer screen. Perfect physical specimen, excellent organ quality. She'll contribute to the advancement of military medicine. Over my dead body. That can be arranged. Cross turned to face her fully. But I'm offering you an alternative. Assist me with this procedure. Show me that arterial technique you refined in Kandahar. Help me perfect this process. Elena's mind raced. The panic button would bring Hartley's team in 30 seconds, but Hartley was under anesthesia, completely vulnerable. Cross could kill her in less time than that. A scalpel to the femoral artery, massive hemorrhage death before help arrived. Why would I help you? Because you're a surgeon. Cross's voice held absolute certainty. Surgeons save lives. That's what you do. That's who you are. Even if it means compromising with someone you despise. Saving her life by helping you harvest her organs isn't saving her. No. But it keeps her alive through the procedure. What happens after depends on whether you cooperate fully. Elena looked at Hartley's unconscious face. The woman who'd tried to stop this conspiracy. Who'd lost 7 operators in the attempt. Who'd trusted Elena to finish the mission. If I assist you, you'll let her live. I'll let her live through the surgery. After that, my employers make decisions about her future. Your employers. Elena stalled for time, trying to think. Who are they exactly? Cross smiled. People with vision. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. DARPA has been funding military medical advancement for decades. This is just the latest evolution. DARPA. The Defense Department's research wing. Elena felt the floor drop out from under her understanding. This wasn't rogue contractors. This was official United States government research. This is sanctioned officially, no. Officially. This program doesn't exist. Cross pulled surgical scrubs from a cabinet. But unofficially, very powerful people are very interested in enhanced soldier capabilities. Now scrub in, Commander. We have work to do. Elena moved to the scrub sink, her mind racing through scenarios. She needed to delay to find an opening to somehow stop this without getting Hartley killed. The panic button was useless if Cross could reach Hartley before help arrived. She scrubbed mechanically while Cross prepared the surgical field. He worked with practiced efficiency, clearly having performed this procedure many times before. His hands were steady, his movements precise. He was a talented surgeon, Elena realized. Just one who'd chosen the wrong side. The anesthesia level is wrong, Elena said, drying her hands. What Cross checked the machine. Elena was right. The dosage was dangerously high. Hartley's oxygen saturation was dropping, respiratory depression setting in. Damn it! Cross moved to adjust the settings. Elena grabbed a scalpel from the instrument tray and drove it into his hand. Cross screamed, dropping his syringe. Elena kicked the weapon away and pressed the panic button twice. Cross lunged at her, his injured hand, spraying blood fury, replacing his professional demeanor. They crashed into the instrument tray. Scalpels and clamps scattered across the floor. Cross was bigger and stronger, but Elena had combat training and absolute desperation. She grabbed a surgical retractor and swung it at his head. He dodged, but she caught his shoulder. He staggered, blood flowing from the wound. You stupid bitch. You have no idea what you've done. I know exactly what I've done. Elena positioned herself between Cross and Hartley. I've stopped you. You've stopped nothing. The program continues. With or without me. The door exploded inward. Navy SEALs poured through in tactical formation weapons, raised, moving with lethal precision. On the ground. Now. Cross raised his hands, blood dripping from his injured hand onto the sterile floor. His expression transformed from rage to something worse. Satisfaction. You think this ends anything? Commander Project Nightingale has 12 operational enhanced soldiers. dozens more in development, 6 hospitals across 4 states, funding from the highest levels of DoD. Cross smiled as seals zip-tied his wrists. Shutting down Mercy General is meaningless. You've exposed one branch. The root system goes much deeper. The SEAL team leader moved to secure Hartley. She was stable. Elena had adjusted the anesthesia in time. Medics arrived to transport her to Naval Medical Center. Elena stood in the middle of the surgical suite, covered in Cross's blood, shaking from adrenaline crash, watching them take him away. He was right, and she knew it. This wasn't over. This would never be over. The next hours blurred. FBI agents swarming Mercy General. Naval intelligence coordinating arrests across 4 states. Director Brennan taken into custody. 3 surgeons arrested. 5 nurses. 2 administrators. The network was vast, more extensive than Hartley had suspected. Elena sat in an observation room watching Cross's interrogation on a monitor. He talked freely, almost eagerly, giving up names, locations, procedures. 23 operatives arrested that night. 6 hospitals raided simultaneously. 4 defense contractors under investigation. The biggest medical conspiracy in United States history, one FBI agent said. And you stopped it. But Elena couldn't feel victorious. She kept thinking about Cross's words. The program continues. The root system goes deeper. 2 days later, she visited Hartley at Naval Medical Center. The commander was sitting up in bed, bruised but alive. Her first words were, "You saved my life. Again. You saved mine first." Elena sat in the visitor's chair, exhausted down to her bones. "We're even." "Hardly." Hartley shifted position carefully. "Cross is cooperating fully. We've identified all network members. Arrests in 4 states. 2 senators under investigation. Major defense contractors losing contracts and facing criminal charges. And DARPA." Hartley's expression darkened. "That's classified above my clearance. But I've been told the program is being shut down. You don't believe that?" "I believe they're covering their tracks. The official version will be rogue contractors acting without oversight." Convenient. Clean. False. Elena looked out the window at San Diego Bay. What about the enhanced soldiers, the 12 who are already operational, all recovered? In custody. Receiving medical treatment to reverse the procedures where possible. Where possible. Some enhancements can't be undone. They'll live with what was done to them. Elena thought about Captain Anderson dying slowly from organ rejection. About the 50-plus victims who hadn't survived. About Rachel Winters murdered for trying to expose this. Was it worth it? All those deaths. Hartley met her eyes. "I can't answer that. Ask me again in 10 years when we see if it actually stopped." The Kandahar explosion. Elena changed subjects. "You said it was connected to this program." CIA asset David Park discovered early stages of organ trafficking on military bases in Afghanistan. Your surgical team treated him. Someone wanted everyone who'd had contact with him eliminated. Hartley pulled out a classified file. This is what Park found. Evidence of organ harvesting dating back to 2018. Your explosion in 2019 was targeted assassination. You survived. Captain Chen survived. Park died in surgery. 3 Marines died. All to bury what Park discovered. Elena felt 3 years of self-blame crystallize into something harder. Anger. The purest, cleanest anger she'd ever felt. Who ordered it classified above my clearance? But Cross confirmed the connection. Same program, earlier iteration. You've been running from these people since Kandahar without knowing it. And now I've stopped them. You've damaged them. That's not the same as stopping them. Elena stood preparing to leave. Hartley called after her. The hospital board wants you back. Chief of Emergency Medicine. Your own department. I'll think about it. Elena. Hartley's voice was serious. You're a hero. Morrison's team didn't die for nothing. Tyler Reed, didn't die for nothing. You shut down 6 hospitals and exposed Pentagon-level corruption. Take the win. Is it winning when the enemy just moves to a different battlefield? Elena left without waiting for an answer. She walked through Naval Medical Center's corridors, processing everything. The conspiracy was exposed, but not destroyed. The enhanced soldiers were recovered, but not cured. Cross was arrested, but DARPA remained untouchable. She made it to the parking garage before her phone rang. Unknown number. Foster. The voice on the other end was female, cold, precise. Dr. Foster, my name is Director Sarah Mitchell, DARPA. Elena's hand tightened on the phone. I don't have anything to say to you. I have something to say to you. Project Nightingale was unauthorized research by contractors exceeding their mandate. We're shutting it down completely. That's a lie. Believe what you want. But understand this, Dr. Foster. Enhanced soldier research is the future of military medicine. What Cross did was crude, illegal, unethical, but the underlying science is sound. We will continue this research, properly overseen, legally sanctioned, with volunteer subjects. Over my dead body. Mitchell's laugh was cold. You're not important enough to kill, Doctor. You exposed a rogue operation. We're grateful. It allows us to distance ourselves from the mess and restart with proper protocols. Elena felt sick. You're going to do it again. We're going to do it right. The enhanced soldiers you recovered. They're not in custody for treatment. They're in custody for study. We're learning from Cross's mistakes, improving the protocols, reducing rejection rates. Director Mitchell paused. In 5 years, we'll have a program that works. Legal, ethical, voluntary. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. I can expose this conversation. Feel free. You have no proof, and your credibility is questionable. Discharged combat surgeon with PTSD fired from civilian hospital involved in violent confrontation that left multiple casualties. The line went dead. Elena stood alone in the parking garage, phone in hand, understanding the true scope of what she'd accomplished. She'd stopped Cross, shut down 6 hospitals, arrested 23 conspirators, exposed Pentagon corruption, and changed absolutely nothing. The program would continue under different names, different facilities, different oversight. The enhanced soldiers would be studied, their organs analyzed, the procedures refined. In 5 years, maybe 10, DARPA would launch an official program. Legal volunteers, proper protocols, enhanced soldiers serving in combat zones worldwide. And everyone would call it progress. Elena got in her car, sat in silence, felt the weight of Morrison's challenge coin in her pocket. Reed's phone, Chen's USB drive with all the evidence that would be classified, buried, forgotten. 15 people had died to expose this conspiracy, and the conspiracy had just changed clothes and kept walking. Her phone rang again. This time the number was Hartley's. I just got a very interesting call, Hartley said without preamble. Did DARPA Director Mitchell happen to contact you? Yes. She told you the program continues. She did. Elena, I need you to understand something. There are battles we can win and battles we can only fight. We won this one. We shut down the illegal operation. We got justice for Rachel Winters and all the victims. That matters. But the war continues. The war always continues. That's why we need people like you. People who won't quit, even when they know they can't win completely. Elena looked at her reflection in the rearview mirror. Dr. Elena Foster, former Navy commander, decorated combat surgeon, woman who'd lost her leg, her career, her mentor, and 15 teammates to expose a conspiracy that was already rebuilding itself. What do I do now? You do what you've always done. You save lives, one patient at a time, one surgery at a time. You can't stop DARPA. But you can make sure Mercy General never becomes a killing floor again. Elena thought about that. About the ER waiting room full of patients who needed doctors. About residents who needed training. About the next veteran with a prosthetic leg who'd be told they were a liability. When does the job start tomorrow if you want it? Chief of Emergency Medicine, Mercy General Hospital. Your department, your rules, your mission. Elena started her car. I want it. Good. There's one more thing. Morrison's sister wants to meet you. She has something of his to give you. When tonight, if you're available. Naval Base, San Diego, 7 p.m. I'll be there. Elena drove away from Naval Medical Center toward an uncertain future. Cross was arrested, but the program survived. The conspiracy was exposed, but not destroyed. 15 people were dead, but their sacrifice had mattered, even if it hadn't ended the war. She'd lost her leg in Kandahar, trying to save people from a threat she didn't understand. She'd lost her mentor to a conspiracy she hadn't known existed. She'd lost Morrison Reed Rodriguez Kim and 7 others fighting an enemy that couldn't be fully defeated. But she was still here, still fighting, still saving lives. That had to count for something. She pulled into her apartment parking lot as the sun set over San Diego. Tomorrow, she'd start her new job. Tomorrow, she'd begin rebuilding Mercy General into something Rachel Winters would have been proud of. Tomorrow, she'd honor Morrison's sacrifice by making sure no one else died in those hallways. Tonight, she'd meet Morrison's sister and accept whatever burden he'd left her to carry. Elena Foster climbed out of her car, her prosthetic leg moving smoothly despite the day's trauma. She'd survived an assassination attempt in Afghanistan, survived a coordinated attack at the safe house, survived a confrontation with Vincent Cross in an underground surgical suite. She'd survived because 15 people had bought her life with their own. Now she had to make that survival mean something. The mission wasn't over. The war continued, but Elena Foster was still standing. And she was just getting started. Lieutenant Sarah Morrison had her brother's eyes. Same intensity, same unwavering focus that could see through pretense to truth. She stood outside the Memorial Chapel at Naval Base San Diego at precisely 7 p.m. dress uniform, crisp posture, military, perfect. Dr. Foster. She saluted. Elena returned it automatically. Muscle memory from a life she'd tried to leave behind. You don't need to salute me. I'm not active duty anymore. Jake would have wanted me to. Sarah's voice was controlled, but Elena heard the grief underneath carefully contained. He always said you were the best combat surgeon he'd ever worked with. They walked into the chapel together. It was empty except for photographs arranged at the front. Chief Petty Officer Jake Morrison. Senior Chief Tom Rodriguez. Petty Officer First Class Sarah Kim. Corpsman Tyler Reed. 4 faces frozen in time, forever young, forever brave. Elena stopped in front of Reed's photo. He looked impossibly young in his dress uniform smile, confident eyes, full of a future he'd never get to live. Tyler gave me his phone, told me to run. Then he stepped into that tunnel and bought my escape with his life. Sarah nodded. That's what Jake did too, held the door so you could get out. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a small wooden box. He left this for you. Instructions written before the mission. Just in case. Elena opened the box. Inside lay Morrison's seal trident, the gold warfare insignia that marked him as an elite operator. Beneath it, a challenge coin bearing his team's insignia, and a handwritten note on waterproof paper. Commander Foster. If you're reading this, something went wrong. That's okay. We knew the risks. What matters is that you finish the fight. You're the bravest surgeon I ever met. Don't let anyone tell you different. Complete the mission. Save lives. That's what warriors do. That's what you do. My sister Sarah will give you my trident. Wear it. Remember that some of us believed in you when the whole world said you were a liability. Hooyah. Jake. Elena's hands shook as she read. She looked up at Sarah, saw tears the woman refused to let fall. He wrote this before picking you up from Mercy General the night before. He always did that before dangerous missions. letters for family, instructions for his gear, final messages. Sarah's jaw was tight. He knew the odds weren't good. He went anyway. Why Sarah met her eyes? Because stopping that program mattered more than his life. Because Tyler Reed's brother died in San Antonio, probably harvested by the same network. Because Jake believed in doing what's right, even when it kills you. Elena closed the box carefully. I don't deserve this. He thought you did. That's what matters. Sarah's voice softened slightly. Dr. Foster, my brother died doing what he loved, protecting people who needed protecting. Don't dishonor that by thinking you're not worth saving. Elena looked at the 4 photographs again. Morrison, Rodriguez, Kim Reed. 4 lives traded for hers. For Chen's. For exposure of a conspiracy that was already rebuilding itself in different forms. The math didn't balance. It never would. Thank you for this. Elena held the box against her chest. I'll carry it with me. Always. Sarah nodded. One more thing. The families of Jake's team were creating a foundation. Scholarship fund for children of operators killed in classified missions. We'd like to name it after all 4 of them. Whatever you need from me, you have it. We need you to keep living, Dr. Foster. Keep saving people. Keep being the reason they didn't die for nothing. After Sarah left, Elena sat alone in the chapel. She opened the box again, looked at the trident, the challenge coin, Morrison's final words. 15 people dead. Rachel Winters, Morrison, Rodriguez, Kim, Reed, 7 of Hartley's operators, 3 Marines in Kandahar years ago. All connected to this conspiracy, all casualties in a war most people didn't know was being fought. She pulled out Reed's phone, still carrying his contacts, his messages, his final conversation with his mother, telling her he loved her. She pulled out Chen's USB drive with all the evidence that would be classified and buried. She touched her prosthetic leg, the constant reminder of Kandahar. These were her relics now. Her responsibility. Her burden to carry forward. 2 weeks later, Elena walked through the doors of Mercy General Hospital as Chief of Emergency Medicine. The staff applauded when she entered. Maria Santos had tears streaming down her face. Dr. David Park smiled with genuine relief. Even the residents who barely knew her seemed to understand they were witnessing something significant. Welcome back, Chief. Maria's voice broke slightly. We've been waiting for you. Elena looked around the ER. Same walls, same equipment, same chaos of human suffering demanding immediate attention. But everything felt different now. This wasn't just a workplace. It was a battlefield she'd conquered and claimed. Let's get to work. Her first day was deliberately overwhelming. Multiple traumas, cardiac arrests, pediatric emergencies. She threw herself into each case with absolute focus, her prosthetic leg moving with practiced efficiency, her hands steady, her judgment sharp. By evening, the ER was running smoother than it had in months. Dr. Park found her in her new office at 9 p.m. You were incredible today. Just doing my job. No. He leaned against the doorframe. You were doing what you've always done. Being the best trauma surgeon in California, despite everyone who said you couldn't. Elena looked at the photo of Rachel Winters she'd placed on her desk. Rachel had fought the hospital board to hire her, had believed in her when no one else would, had died trying to expose the conspiracy that operated in these very halls. I'm making changes, David. New protocols, new oversight. Every surgery logged and tracked. Patient advocacy board with veteran representation. Mental health integration with physical care. No more shadows. The board approved all of it. Park smiled. Turns out having a hero as Chief of Emergency Medicine is good for public relations. And funding. I'm not a hero. I'm a doctor who did what needed doing. That's what heroes are. 6 months passed in a blur of restructuring and healing. Elena built a team she could trust, promoted Maria Santos to nurse manager, hired new physicians with impeccable backgrounds and iron ethics, created the Veterans Medical Initiative providing free comprehensive care to former military personnel. The program gained national attention. Other hospitals reached out asking about implementation. Elena gave lectures, wrote protocols, shared everything she'd learned about treating combat veterans with respect and dignity they deserved. But she still woke up some nights hearing Morrison's last words. Reed's final smile. The sound of Tyler's weapon going silent in that tunnel. The ghosts followed her everywhere. On a Tuesday morning, exactly 6 months after her return, the hospital's mass casualty alarm activated. Multi-vehicle pileup on I-5 preliminary reports indicated 18 vehicles, dozens of casualties, trauma levels ranging from minor to critical. Elena was in motion before the announcement finished. All available personnel to ER, triage teams to north entrance, trauma bays 1 through 4 on standby. Blood bank, prepare, O negative. Respiratory and anesthesia. I need everyone available. The first ambulances arrived within minutes. Elena directed traffic like a conductor leading an orchestra. Priority 1, patients to trauma bay 1. Priority 2 to bay 2. Walking wounded to the annex. Keep them flowing. No bottlenecks. The staff moved with precision, born from 6 months of Elena's leadership. She'd trained them for exactly this scenario. Mass casualty incidents required perfect coordination and zero hesitation. Patient after patient flooded in. Broken bones, internal bleeding, head trauma, crushed limbs. Elena moved between bays, assessing, directing, making split-second decisions about who needed surgery immediately and who could wait. The worst case came in at 7 a.m. Female 23, crushing chest injury from steering wheel impact. Tension pneumothorax, flail chest, possible cardiac contusion. Unconscious, barely breathing, decompensating fast. Elena was there in seconds. Respiratory bag her. Anesthesia, prepare for intubation. I need a chest tube kit now. Her hands moved with absolute certainty. Insert needle to decompress the tension pneumothorax. Patient gasped, color improving slightly. Now the chest tube. Local anesthetic incision, blunt dissection tube placement. Rush of air and blood confirmed proper positioning. The patient's vitals stabilized. Elena called for cardiac surgery. She's going to the OR in 3 minutes. Someone page Dr. Mitchell and tell him I'm sending him a save. Maria appeared at her elbow. Dr. Foster, we've got 14 more incoming. The freeway is still blocked. How many have we treated so far? 28. No deaths. Elena felt something fierce and triumphant rise in her chest. Keep that number at 0. We don't lose anyone today. By noon, they'd treated 47 patients. 14 went to surgery. 33 were admitted for observation or treatment. 0 deaths. Not a single life lost despite the scale of the disaster. Elena finally stopped moving around 2 p.m. Her prosthetic leg was screaming socket pressure, creating pain she'd been ignoring for hours. She sat in the locker room, removed the prosthetic, massaged her stump, felt the familiar phantom pain that never really left. But she was smiling. Morrison would have approved. Reed would have been proud. Rachel would have said this was exactly why she'd fought to hire Elena in the first place. Maria found her there an hour later. Chief, there's someone asking for you. Young woman, former military, prosthetic leg, says she needs to talk to you specifically. Elena pulled her prosthetic back on, ignoring the pain, and went to the exam room. The patient was maybe 26, athletic build, above knee prosthetic visible below her shorts. She sat rigidly in the chair, shoulders tense, eyes showing barely controlled panic. I'm Dr. Elena Foster, Chief of Emergency Medicine. Elena sat down across from her, deliberately making herself smaller, less threatening. What brings you in today? I'm Jessica. Former Marine Corps, wounded in Syria 3 years ago. The woman's voice was tight. I've been training as a paramedic. Today was supposed to be my first day on the job. What happened? They saw my leg. Told me I'm too much of a liability. Fired me before I even started. Elena felt those words like physical blows. Liability. The same word Brennan had used. The same excuse for discrimination she'd been fighting her entire post-Kandahar life. Did they give you official termination paperwork? Said they'd mail it. Jessica's hands clenched. I just want to help people, save lives, but everyone looks at my leg and sees weakness. Elena rolled up her scrub pants, exposing her own prosthetic. I have a blade prosthetic. Lost my leg in Afghanistan 5 years ago. IED aftermath during a field hospital evacuation. Jessica's eyes widened. You're a surgeon chief of emergency medicine. I run this entire department. And today I led a mass casualty response that saved 47 lives. Elena leaned forward. Your prosthetic doesn't make you weak. It makes you understand suffering in ways other paramedics can't. That understanding makes you better at your job, not worse. But they said liability. They said that to me too. Fired me from this very hospital 6 months ago for the same reason. Elena's voice was hard. You know what I did? I proved them wrong, shut down a criminal conspiracy, exposed Pentagon corruption, and came back as their boss. Jessica managed a weak smile. How do I do that? You start by not giving up. Elena pulled out her phone. I know the director of the San Diego Fire Department. Former Navy like us. I'll make a call. If you're willing to work hard and prove yourself, I'll help you get a fair shot. Really? Really. But Jessica understands something. People will always see your prosthetic first. They'll always have doubts. You'll have to be twice as good to get half the credit. That's not fair, but it's reality. I can handle that. Then let's get you where you belong. Elena made the call. 30 minutes later, Jessica left with a new training placement starting the following week. She hugged Elena at the door, crying openly. Thank you. You saved my life today. You're going to save plenty of others. Pay it forward. After Jessica left, Elena stood in the empty exam room, feeling something she hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not happiness, not exactly, but purpose. Solid, unshakable purpose. Morrison's sacrifice, Reed's bravery, Rachel's determination. They hadn't died for nothing. They died so Elena could stand here in this hospital helping the next person who was told they weren't good enough. That evening, Elena visited Marcus Chen at his home in La Jolla. He'd made a full recovery, retired from active service, and accepted a teaching position at National Defense University. His apartment was filled with books, files, evidence he was building curricula to teach the next generation about military ethics. How's civilian life? Elena asked. Quiet. Chen poured coffee. Too quiet sometimes. I keep waiting for someone to kick down my door. Same. Elena accepted the cup. DARPA hasn't contacted you again. Officially. Unofficially, I've been told my testimony before Congress was very inconvenient for certain programs. Chen's expression was grim. Mitchell's operation is continuing under different oversight. Legal volunteers, they claim. But I've heard whispers about pressure on wounded soldiers to accept experimental treatments. Can we stop it? We exposed it. We damaged it. We made it harder for them to operate in shadows. Chen shrugged. That's all we could do. Doesn't feel like enough. It never does. But Elena, we saved lives. Captain Anderson is alive because you operated on him. Commander Hartley is alive because you stopped Cross. 47 people survived today's mass casualty because you were leading that ER. That counts. Elena thought about Jessica, the young Marine paramedic who'd been told she was a liability, about the hundreds of patients she'd treated since returning to Mercy General, about the changes she'd implemented that would protect future patients from becoming victims. Maybe Chen was right. Maybe small victories were all you could hope for in a war this big. What about you? Chen asked. Are you sleeping? Some nights. Nightmares always. Chen nodded, understanding. Me too. I see that tunnel. Reed's last stand. Morrison holding the door. Sometimes I wake up and think I'm still trapped in that basement, bleeding out while Cross prepares to harvest me. Elena touched the challenge coin in her pocket, Morrison's trident that she carried everywhere now. They haunt us because we survived, and they didn't. No. Chen's voice was firm. They haunt us because they mattered, because their sacrifice meant something. The day we stop feeling that weight is the day we dishonor their memory. That night, Elena stood on her apartment balcony looking out at San Diego's lights. She'd been back at Mercy General for 6 months, had restructured the entire department, had created programs that were becoming models for hospitals nationwide, had mentored young doctors who saw her prosthetic leg and learned that limitations were just challenges waiting to be overcome. But the ghosts were still there. Morrison Reed Rodriguez, Kim Rachel, the 7 operators from Hartley's team, the 3 Marines from Kandahar, 15 deaths that had bought her the chance to be standing here. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Elena's hand went to the panic button she still carried habit from 6 months of hypervigilance. Foster. Dr. Foster. This is Director Sarah Mitchell DARPA. Elena's blood turned to ice. What do you want? Just calling to congratulate you on your mass casualty response today. 47 patients, 0 deaths. Impressive work. How do you know about that? We keep track of talented surgeons. Mitchell's voice was professional, almost friendly. The program you shut down, we've learned from it. New protocols, volunteer subjects, proper oversight. In 2 years, we'll have enhanced soldiers operating worldwide. Legal, ethical, effective. Then why are you calling me? Because you have a choice to make. Doctor, keep fighting us and accomplish nothing, or join us and help make sure the program is done right this time. Go to hell. Think about it. You could oversee medical ethics, ensure volunteers are truly consenting, guarantee no one gets hurt the way Cross hurt people. Mitchell paused. Or you can keep running your little ER while we build the future of warfare without your input. The line went dead. Elena stood on her balcony, phone in hand, feeling the weight of Morrison's trident in her pocket. Mitchell was offering her exactly what she'd wanted. Oversight, ethics, control to prevent another conspiracy. It was also a trap. Join them and she'd be legitimizing the very program she'd exposed, become part of the system that had killed Rachel Morrison Reed and so many others. But refuse, and the program continued without her. Without anyone asking hard questions or demanding accountability. She thought about what Chen had said. Small victories. That's all you could hope for. Maybe the victory wasn't stopping DARPA. Maybe it was just being the person who kept asking if they should, even when everyone else was asking if they could. Elena deleted Mitchell's number. Tomorrow she'd go back to Mercy General, back to her ER, back to saving lives 1 patient at a time. That was her battlefield now. Not secret conspiracies or Pentagon programs, just the simple, impossible work of keeping people alive when the universe wanted them dead. Morrison's voice echoed in her memory. Complete the mission, save lives. That's what warriors do. Elena Foster was a warrior, not the kind who fought with guns or wore uniforms anymore, but the kind who showed up every day, put on scrubs, and fought death itself with nothing but skill and determination. The war continued. It always would. But so would she. Elena went inside, set her alarm for 5 a.m. and tried to sleep. The nightmares came as always. Morrison holding the door, Reed smiling before his sacrifice, Rachel's broken body in the parking garage. But when she woke, she got up, put on her prosthetic leg, drove to Mercy General, walked through those doors ready to face whatever the day brought. Because that's what warriors do. They fight. They survive. They save who they can. And they never, ever quit. The end.